Hello and a very warm welcome along to episode 310 of the Total Saints podcast, your home for all things Southampton Football Club. As always, a huge thank you to our TSP Patreon community because we couldn't make the show each week without your support. And thanks this week to Robert Evans, who has joined our Bobby Stokes tier this week. So thank you, Robert. Now, we're live streaming this episode on Facebook, X, Twitch, Instagram, and YouTube. And coming up this week on the podcast, well, it was as easy as it comes for Brighton at St Mary's, 4-0 the final score. The manager said after the game, we're not good enough. I mean, I can't imagine that you're going to disagree much, but we will see. And our next game is on Tuesday night. It's Chelsea. So we're going to preview that one for you as well. My name is Martin Starke. Joining me this week are Steve Grant, who is the owner of Saints Web. Glen is writer of the blog League One -10. And Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter at the Daily Echo. So I kind of feel like we should start with the manager this week. Since Ivan Urich started, we've lost 8 of our 9 Premier League games and we've conceded 25 goals in the process. Glenn, it's not really a step forward, is it? It's not really progress, this, but unfortunately, I think we kind of all saw this coming.
Yeah, it's definitely not progress. And, you know, what I saw yesterday was a manager who doesn't really have a clue. I mean, he's promised that he will learn and he will abandon this man marking shambles that we've got at the back. But yeah, it's just a case of whether you're feeling charitable enough to give him the chance to, to change it. He's come out with some utter rubbish. I remember when he, this is something Alfie highlighted in a piece he wrote. So sorry, I'm stealing your thunder a little bit here. He said he knew the players before he joined. He doesn't know them now. He clearly doesn't know them now. The things he's asking them to do, they're just not capable of it. And it was just a joke from start to finish. I mean, you could tell it was going to be a joke even before Brighton scored. And I just find it amazing that something can be so obviously wrong, but you just keep doing it for 90 minutes. And then it's just worse and worse as the game went on. Just pathetic, really. And then we throw on a player who hasn't played for 20 months. And you could, Brighton and Bournemouth last week, they've sussed exactly how to get past it. Slightly differently. Bournemouth did it by taking players on. Brighton did it just by speeding up the passing, playing quick 1-2s around the corner, all this sort of stuff. No one tracked the runners. It was just embarrassing from start to finish. And Urich stood there and did nothing. I mean, there's always the argument that no manager could do it with the players that we've got, and I think that's a valid argument. That was what we were saying with Russell Martin right back at the start of the season. Who could do anything with this squad? There is that argument, but I'd like to turn that around and say I haven't seen anything from Ivan Urich to suggest that even if he was given the perfect squad of players, he could do anything with it either. Yeah. There was no clue defensively, as I've said. There was no clue attacking. I mean, how many times did we bang the ball up to the twin giants of Sulemana and Cameron Archer? I mean, that was our method of attacking in that first half in particular. Yeah. It's just crap. It's crap football. No idea. He doesn't seem to. He picks midfield players. I don't know what he thinks the midfielders are supposed to be doing, because they don't provide any attacking impetus and they don't protect the defence either. You know, there seems to be a license to get forward, but I mean, that was compromised slightly yesterday with Leslie Ugochukwu getting booked in the first minute, because then you had absolutely no one to sort of put a tackle in, because that's obviously not Mateus Fernandez's game. So so he picked an attacking lineup with no real thought of how we were going to protect the back three at all, which is makeshift anyway, partly through his own doing and partly through injuries. And yeah, to me, he's a caretaker, manager, supply teacher. He's like Ruben Selles without the nice clothes. Really, it's just shocking. It's just get to the end of the season and get him gone. I'd like to get him gone now, because what I saw yesterday, I don't see any point in him being there, to be honest. And you might as well put the proper caretaker manager, Simon Rusk, in charge for the rest of the season. And just admit, we're down. So just admit that's what you're doing. We're getting to the end of the season and we're going to make everything marvellous again in the summer, which, given Sports Republic's decision-making success record, I'm sure they will. So yeah, great day. Thanks, Ivan.
So yes. you would draw a line under it now and pull the trigger and make that change now?
I mean, there's an argument that there's no point because obviously we're going down and we might as well have the same hate figure from now to the end of the season. But I don't see that he's adding anything. I really don't. And the win against Ipswich was a little bit fortunate. 8 defeats out of 9, that'd get most managers sacked anyway. I know there's the caveat of the squad and all that, but just putting that aside for a second, is he getting the most out of his squad? Is he in any way making these players bigger than the sum of their parts, which is what a manager is supposed to do? He's supposed to create a team. You might not have the best players, but you find a way around that by, I don't know, working hard or being clever tactically. I just don't see anything really. No attack, no defence. Aaron Ramsdale kept the score down yesterday. I'm sure we'll get onto that. Could have been 10 without him quite comfortably. It's just abysmal, really. So personally, get rid of him now. Get rid of him in 3 games. Get rid of him at the end of the season. Doesn't really make any difference. So I think you might as well get rid of him now. But I doubt they will.
Alfie, I'll ask you about the quotes and the post-match stuff in just a moment. I want to get your thoughts, Steve. Are you kind of in agreement? I think I kind of agree with everything that Glen's said. The thing that's missing for me is the detachment from the club, and that might be repaired if someone like Simon Rusk was given the job. Because at the moment, I just feel like they don't care. He hasn't got a clue. Why are we bothering to go each week? And that's going to be a problem long term, isn't it? That detachment between the fans that we don't seem to have at the moment.
Potentially, yes. Although I would caveat that with, I think we all felt the same this time 2 years ago. But at that point, the feeling was slightly different in that we thought that this was a group of players that should be better. Whereas I think this time around, I think we accept that the players just simply aren't of the quality as a collective. We've got individuals who can do things on their day, but at the end of the day, there's a reason why most of them are playing for us and not for somebody better. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm leaning towards the same conclusion as Glen in that ultimately what has improved in the time since. I mean, it's not like Urich coming in as repaired fan relations, is it?
No.
Everybody's still very, very angry, if not more so. And I mean, you've got this weird sort of balance of priorities among our fan base, whereby you've got Will Smallbone, who, for all his limitations, has grown up in the area, is a Saints fan, has come through the academy, is quite literally one of our own, and is getting abuse week in, week out. And Amo-Ameyaw comes on yesterday like somebody back from the dead. I mean, this guy couldn't wait to get out of here 24 months ago. Literally could not get out of Staplewood quickly enough, and was more than eager to take sort of substitutions in the first half of games with injury theoretically. But I mean, frankly I didn't buy it then. I don't buy it now. And yet he gets a hero's welcome when he comes back, and it's absolutely ridiculous. The sort of warped priorities on these sort of things. So I mean, I do think we don't help ourselves with this sort of thing. We kind of allow these sort of behaviours to go on, because at the end of the day, if you're not gonna give a player stick for doing what he had done over a prolonged period of time, and you're just going to hurl abuse at the lad who actually is basically the same as you, just wants this football club to be successful, then why are we even here? It's ridiculous. But in terms of Urich, as I say, what has he improved? Not a lot. We obviously yesterday we didn't, but for the most part, under him we've generally scored. But a lot of those goals have come when the game's already been lost. So it kind of feels a little bit redundant that we're sort of scoring a little bit more frequently, and ultimately it doesn't make any difference when you concede in 3 goals a game or more, as we are doing on average under him. And I mean that's now not a small sample size. That's 9 games. And you're conceding basically 3 goals a game. There is
25 goals in 9 games.
Yeah, I mean it's nuts. And I mean, what have we done at home? Like the last few games, 4 yesterday, 3 Bournemouth, 3 Newcastle, 5 Brentford, 5 Tottenham, 5 Chelsea. It's ridiculous. And I mean, I'm amazed that I think yesterday was possibly the first game that wasn't an official sellout this season, which kind of shows the relative insanity of our fan base, really, that up until now they've kept coming back for more. But I kind of wonder whether especially the way that the team's being set up, I wonder whether that is possibly a kind of tipping point for people, whereby they'll just say, well, I'm just going to save my money for next season when then obviously there'll be a different manager in charge and we might start winning a few games and it'll get interesting again.
I can't imagine Wolves is going to be a sellout next.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. And ultimately that's basically a game where if we lose that, then I guess there's the sort of collateral of effectively dragging Leicester and Ipswich with us, because they've got a 5-point gap now already. That will probably then make 8. And you can't. I struggle to see either Leicester or Ipswich getting 8 more points for the rest of the season. So yeah, that would basically seal the bottom 3 already. And what will that be? Middle of March.
Steve, all 3 are dreadful. Ipswich, us, and Leicester, they're all terrible teams. Ipswich have got a bit of fighting character, but they've not beaten Southampton in 2 attempts. How bad can you be? All 3
in a mini league between the 3 of us, Ipswich are bottom.
Sounds like a chant. Those quotes yesterday, Alfie, must be a headline writer's dream. We're not good enough to defend the way that I'm used to defending. I think the squad was trying to play football with lots of possession, and that didn't go well. I changed everything to try and do other types of football, and that didn't go well either. Now I have to find a way to compete better. Bizarre kind of. It's this honesty that we've spoken about again, but it's just doesn't leave him much room for manoeuvre.
Yeah, well, I think he's spot on with what he said in the sense that, the players can't do what he's asking them to do. But I think the problem is that, we all could have told him that a couple of weeks ago. And I don't mean that in a, an offensive or derivative way, but we could have told him that. We could have told him that a back 3 of Joe Aribo, who, to be fair, has been the only good defender, Bella Kochap and James Bree couldn't play a man-to-man marking system against Brighton, who've got athletic and quality, technically quality players. So the fact that it's taken him this long to work it out is the biggest, mark against him. And it's like we're going from just every manager at the moment just seems to be obsessed, and I'm bored of talking about it, but every manager has one style of play and they stick to it. And Ruben Amorim at Man United is dreadful. Russell Mine just didn't work. There's other ones as well off the top of my head, but it feels like we've now got Ivan as well. And to be fair, like you said, Ivan said he's going to have to find different ways to compete now. And in those early few games against Man United and, to some extent West Ham, and obviously they beat Ipswich, there's a couple of games there where I can sort of see why he felt that they might be able to do it. But he's had so many injuries at the back. I just can't believe that, Russell Martin was the same. I can't believe that they didn't look at the amount of injuries they've had and go, actually, we probably can't do what we tried to do, and we'll just change it up a little bit. We'll just, defend zonally and just try and give one person responsibility for an area and just simplify the game for these players who are already clearly not good enough for the Premier League, or if they are, then they're not amazing for the Premier League. They're not without struggles. So make their game easier, make it simple for them. Don't confuse them. And I look at the where the players end up, and I just think, well, you must be confused, because there's no way that if James Bree finds himself in left midfield that he's comfortable there. I refuse to believe that he can feel comfortable there, because he's never played there in his life. So there's too many players getting dragged all over the pitch. change. But, Ivan said he's going to change, and I am intrigued to see what he comes up with on Tuesday. I think it will look more like
good,
those
good
sort
time
of
for him to good time for him to announce that he's going to change when we have no training time ahead of the next game.
Yeah, well, I mean, what he's going to change to, I think, is going to be more like what it was against West Ham and against Crystal Palace, and obviously with Simon Russ against Fulham as well. And honestly, that might just be what they need. But obviously, everyone, I see the comments now, people putting in the sort of heavy metal football stuff. That's what we were promised when we arrived. It's not been heavy metal football.
I mean, we're occasionally dinging the symbol. I think
that's
about
I mean,
that's heavy
little triangle.
Yeah, the one I see all the time is scrap metal football, isn't it? I think you might have said it at one point on the podcast as well, Glen, and that's what we're getting at the moment. So, yeah,
scrap
I think
metal has value, though.
Well, true. I mean, I echo the thoughts of Glen and Steve in the sense that it seems impossible that Ivan will be here next season. Now it just seems so difficult, but I don't think there's any point of changing right now because, like they said, they're doomed. Whoever comes in is going to lose as many games. But I'm intrigued to see what Ivan does and hope that he has a bit more success than he's had.
I just wonder with the 10 days after the Chelsea game, whether that might be time to, if it's, a heavy defeat. Can you see, Glenn, if we get absolutely battered at Chelsea, then they might have to do something and just go, look, thanks, we made another mistake.
I don't think they will, to be honest. I think, something that's just occurred to me when Alfie was talking there is of course he's decided to change his defensive system when we're about to play Chelsea away and then Liverpool away. So we could have, especially at Anfield, we could have got beat by 15 playing like we did yesterday. So I'd be surprised if they admit they've made yet another mistake. I'd be surprised if they pulled the trigger. It could be another. When they decided to pull the trigger on Russell Martin after 5 first half goals against Tottenham, didn't they? So. I guess there's a chance, but with Dragan Solak going on TalkSport, what was it, 3 weeks ago, perhaps, saying he's our manager for next season, it wouldn't be a good look. But it's the thing. I don't care. I don't care anymore.
I'm the same though, and this is my problem. I don't care either.
Yeah,
and this is mad.
I don't care about even Urich. He's made no impression on me. I kind of cared a little bit about Russell Martin because he was successful in getting us promoted, and the courage of his convictions and all that. And yes, he was stubborn and all that, but there was a little bit. I was rooting for him slightly, to do well, even when it was bad at the start of this season. But this guy, nothing, no connection at all. Couldn't care less whether he stays or goes, really. And that's why I think he'll stay, because there's just no real value in getting rid of him. But I don't see the point in what he's doing. I really don't. I mean, the only good thing about him, about if he got let go now, would be that you would be 100% sure that he wasn't going to be the manager next season, because that's a nightmare scenario for me.
Yeah,
if we get to the end of the season, I mean, we knew Ruben Sellers wasn't going to be the manager because he only had 3-month contract or whatever it was. But we're led to believe that Urich has got 18 months. We've had the quotes from Dragan Solak as well. How much value you put on those, I don't know. But no, it would just be a horrific prospect. Good luck selling season tickets if you've got this guy in charge next season.
It just reminded me a bit of, at the end of Fighting Talk when they do the defend the indefensible, and the comment would be that Urich should be trusted to rebuild the squad and take us forward next season. Can anyone convince me we're going to get more points than Derby did? That's the next thing.
Well, you've got to play Leicester.
We've got to play Leicester away.
Yeah, I mean.
So is that where we get the 3? Is that what we're targeting? Everything's on that.
It can't be.
I mean, you're leaving it pretty damn late, aren't you? Because that's into May, that game.
Yeah, I mean, then the 3 games after that are Man City, Everton away, and Arsenal, aren't they? So I mean, that is the last chance.
That's the last chance to get 3 points.
No. Everton actually, of course.
No chance.
Go out there and completely ruin their party like we did at Main Road for Man City.
No chance.
We'll get annihilated up there.
Mm-hmm.
I think their crowd would just shrink even more than we already have.
It's interesting, Glenn, that you say like you don't feel any connection to Ivan Urich at all, and I completely understand that, just because he hasn't gotten himself over with the fans really at all by doing anything that the likes of Russell Martin do. This sort of modern style of speaking to people, I guess. I mean, what I would say is I quite like him as a bloke. I mean, obviously I get a few interactions with him a week, and he is always sort of polite, respectful, and he doesn't mind you asking sort of difficult questions. Which after 2 years with Russell Martin, it was a bit refreshing, because you'd ask a question to Russell Martin and you knew you're going to get your head bitten off. Whereas with Ivan, he'll just explain exactly what he thinks. He'll tell you if you think you're a knobhead or not, but he'll tell you the answer to your question, and that's quite refreshing from us. But yeah, it's a shame that he hasn't sort of gotten himself over with the fans at all. I don't know what more he could have done. Well, a lot more probably, but I don't know what specifically he could have done other than just getting results. But yeah, I was rooting for him and I wanted him to do well. So I am a little bit disappointed with just
I'll tell
how
you what,
bad it's gone.
I'll tell you what you could have done. You remember the game against West Ham, his first home game, where we actually played quite well. We had a kind of style of play. It's before he started all the man marking rubbish. And we actually played half decent football in that game, created a load of chances, lost 1-0 because we had a defensive howler. Surprise, surprise. But if he'd have kept like that and not messed around with it, not done this man-to-man marking thing, I think
we'd be past Derby already.
Yeah, I think we'd have been okay. But this, we found a new way to be crap in defence. I mean, we were giving goals away with silly short passes, Russell Martin suicide ball at the start of the season, and we've replaced that with this, which is another suicide ball.
And the reason why
I'm worse.
Yeah. The reason I'm not even angry at this point, I'm like, when your parents say I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. The reason I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed, is because he said in his first press conference that he knew that he couldn't do too much too quickly. He couldn't make too many changes, otherwise he'd confuse the players. He told himself that. He told us that in his first press conference, and I just feel like he hasn't taken that advice on board at all. He's done way too much. I think I said on Twitter earlier, he's trying to make players who need their hands held when they walk. He's trying to make them run. And it's just never going to work. And Russell Martin did the same thing. These players who couldn't play out the back, he tried to make them do it, tried to make them believe they could. And it's, I don't know if it would have made a difference at all, really. But I wonder how many more points we'd have if we just had a 4-2-3-1 and they played simple counter-attacking Brentford-style football all season. How many points would they have?
Well, we might see that on Tuesday night. You never know if he's promising some changes. We should probably just square off a few more bits about the game. If you lost count, it was our 21st Premier League defeat of the season on Saturday. Brighton basically just turned up and took all 3 points. Glenn, we were talking last week about the lineups and your disappointment when this one dropped. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, we're playing 4 at the back. Oh, no, Aribo's going to play as centre-back. So,
well, we kind of joked last week, didn't we, about put Joe Aribo in the back three and drop Fernandes into midfield, and he ended up doing that. Didn't actually think he would. And I mean, the joke was, pick our 11 players and just put them in your normal formation, and that'll work, won't it? I mean, so I mean, the players he picked weren't horrendous choices, apart from Cameron Archer, who's garbage. But I kind of accepted the 11 that went out there, but it's just this you can't play in that style with makeshift players all over the pitch, and that was the end of it, really. I mean, I don't know why Cameron Archer was playing and not Paul Onuachu. It wouldn't have made any difference, to be honest. But I just
it is weird. It is weird.
I'm struggling to remember, and we need a new category. We talk about players being lightweight. I think in boxing it goes down to straw weight. That's Cameron Archer. Just breathe on him, falls over, gives the ball away. Just a waste of time in that role. Needs to play in a wide area, really, where he gets a bit more space, because he can't play up against centre halves.
I mean, one thing I would say in his defence is his movement is always very good. As soon as we gain possession, he is on the move and he is looking to make that positive move off the shoulder of the opposition centre back. The problem is that the ball never comes, and
when it does, it's offside.
Well, I mean, the problem is that you can never time them all correctly, and I guess when the more times you make the run and the ball never arrives, you kind of lose heart, and then you naturally don't quite time everything correctly. You're not quite fully switched on and engaged, You lose a little bit of confidence that the ball's just never going to come to you, so why bother? All that sort of thing. And it's something that Sheffield United experienced with him last season. His movement was excellent, especially in the first half of the season. He looked really lively. But once they started going through that patch of getting hammered, like even worse than we're getting hammered at home. Like when they took 8 against Newcastle, was it 6 against Villa? Brighton scored 5 up there twice, like 1 in the cup and things like this. And and problem is, if you're leaving him as the one guy up against 2 massive centre backs, you can't just put the ball up to him and expect him to hold it up. That's never been what Cameron Archer is good at. You've got to put the ball into channels for him to run to, and if you don't do that, then he is going to be a waste of a place in the team. Unfortunately,
he is a sitting duck. Whenever the ball gets played to his feet, it's just a waste of time. You might as well go back and defend because he just never
any runners off him either.
And no, it's just rubbish. You can't. He's not the sort of player you can use in that. We've got one forward who you can use in that system, and that's the big tall guy, and he ain't very good. But he's the only one that can possibly, but then we say this about the midfield players. You've got to have combative, athletic midfield players. So, I mean, how predictable was it that Flynn Downs was going to sit on the bench and not get on?
Yeah.
How predictable was that? It was just, I forgot what the original question was now. It's just about the team lineup. I mean, the game. As I said, the game was waiting for Brighton to score before they did. They had a couple of breaks through it. We just about got away with.
I mean, they had 4. I think they had 4 really good chances before they scored, didn't they?
Yeah. And then we brought on the Messiah Belakocha when Bednarek got injured, and he contributed heavily to the first goal. We nearly scored accidentally. I think it was our one shot on target, which was a Wellington cross. That almost sneaked in.
Wellington going off at half time, by the way, is a bit weird, isn't it? Back-to-back games.
Yeah,
I mean, he was asked about it, Ivan. He did just say in simple English, basically he's come from Brazil where the game's a lot slower, and he wasn't doing things quick enough for the Premier League. But I just thought none of them were doing anything quick enough for the Premier League. He's good.
Yeah, you can't. So the defence is terrible. So at half time, your defence has been awful. So you make it worse by bringing on Sugawara, who's right up there with one of the worst defensive players I've ever seen. He's terrible as a defender, not bad going forward. Terrible as a defender. So that made the team worse. Bearing in mind we already had a lightweight midfield in front of a makeshift back 3. So genius decision, even. Well done. Archer stuck the ball in the net to start the second half, but it was well offside. The VAR.
I did think we'd played them in the same way that we did down at the Amex, in that we were pretty much awful in that first half down there. They'd missed 2 or 3 really good chances, and then second half we decided to actually turn up and play quite well. Got a point, should have got a win. And I thought, have we done this again? And but no, very very emphatically no.
And when you look at the offside, it's horrible because he's looking across the 3 players. He can see everything, and he's behind all of them. So it was a pretty brainless one to go when he did. And then the game went away from us with the second goal, which was Aribo and KWP, Mr. Walker Peters, who's still here. Just letting you know that in case anyone missed him yesterday. So we end up with a 2-on-2 defensive situation, 20 yards out, as always, and they get done. No covering player, as always, because James Bree's in midfield somewhere. So that's good. Wasn't a foul, however much they complain about it. No way that was a foul.
Although they do quite often get given, don't they?
Yeah, my favourite goal was Mitoma's one because it was really complicated from Brighton. Just pass up to the forward,
through the middle,
first time knock off, and then run into 50 yards of space with his marker towing a caravan behind him. So that was good. 3-0.
And then letting a corner bounce in the box.
Yeah, letting a corner bounce in the box. Small bone and a Rebo just going after you. Oh, I'll tell you what, we'll leave it. And 4-0. And I left at that point.
And then you left, yeah. That's one more goal than I saw, I'll be honest with you.
Well, I was going out in the evening and I had to get home and walk the dog before I went out. And I went to a gig in town at Papillon, which is the old church opposite the Mayflower. So I went to see a band in the evening, and live music never lets you down. So if you've gone to the football for entertainment, I suggest going to see some live music at the end of it, because you come away feeling like at least you've done something with your day.
This is my point though, and this is, like you were saying to me, Glenn, I think you've only ever left one game early, which was Arsenal away, and then we're at the point now where you don't 1989. Care. Like, you know what, I'm done with this shit. And if you're saying that, then that is just how far we've fallen. And
just to clarify, that's the second game you've left early in history.
Yes.
There you go.
I think that's how bad it is.
I think it's basically it's not. I'm not saying I'm a hero for staying to the end or anything like that. It's basically, if I paid money for something, I stayed to the end. That's just the way I was brought up. And I have no issue with people leaving when we're getting absolutely stuffed. I have no issue with that. The ones that annoy me are the ones that leave when it's 1-1 with 15 minutes to go. That winds me up. Yeah. But no, I've never left early. That game at Highbury was an Ian Wright hat trick, and it was someone pointed out to me on Twitter that that was at the time when you used to have
injury time as well.
No, that was a different one. That was at St Mary's. He got a hat trick against. Sorry, at the Derby. He got a hat trick against us every time. But no, this one was at Highbury, and he got a hat trick 60 minutes. And if you stayed after 75 minutes, you got locked in for half an hour after the game. I obviously made the decision to do a runner that day. And that's literally the only time. So I mean, I was there for right to the end of the 9-0 with Leicester and all that. It just never occurs to me to go. But yesterday I just thought, you know what, I've got something to do in the evening. This is garbage. I need the toilet. I'm just going to go to the loo and just walk out and keep going. And there were so many people outside.
What's the joke about staying to the end to avoid the rush? That's the
it's a bit like that. It was a bit of a logjam in Britannia Road as people tried to get out.
That's the thing. I mean, 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks running now. I've managed to get the earlier train out of Southampton Central, even though I've stayed till the final whistle.
It's going to hit. You've got the fan zone they've built, and you've got the bands that they're laying on. And there was that week where they pre-poured all the pints and they're having to give them away because everybody had decided to go home.
I mean,
it's going to hit
that game,
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that one incident was stupid, and they should have seen that coming, because that was the Spurs game. So that was a Sunday night 7:00 kickoff. So let's be honest, even if we'd won, how many people would have been sticking around after that game?
Yeah,
for a pint at 9:30 on a Sunday night. Yeah. Not many. So yeah, I mean that was just a complete pig's ear of things. But yeah, you are right in that. I mean, you're getting all these bands in. I mean, if people have gone home and there's nobody around to watch them, I mean that's not fair on those guys, is it? That you've got these guys in sort of thinking they're gonna be performing to a few hundred people, and it's literally like 2 people that are sticking around plus the agency staff. It's not fun for anybody, is it really?
No. Alfie, I want to talk about Bednarek going off and the injury. Do we know any more about that today? I kind of felt like when he went off, I don't know if it would have made a difference at all or not, but they were even more clueless after he'd gone, just for those few minutes where they were trying to work out who was supposed to be doing what. It certainly didn't help. Yeah,
I think it does make a difference, because at the end of the day, he is the best defender the club has at the moment, the most consistent player, and probably the sort of the most courageous and sort of fearless, I guess, that they have. They had a scan today. I don't know the results of that, so I guess we'll find out in the press conference tomorrow. But I'd be very surprised if that means he's playing on Tuesday. So probably be a first Premier League start for Amo-Ameyaw for nearly 2 years. You would have predicted, but yeah, I mean they've already got Harwood-Bellis, who was going to be sort of 1 week out, and it's been 2, 3. Jack Stevens was back on the bench, didn't come on. So they've not, the options are not brilliant at the moment, are they? If Bednarek's out as well, that will be a blow. I suppose the last thing to add on Ivan Urich for me is there's a couple of comments about, that supposed break clause. I mean, no one really knows the true answer. When I asked at the time, the club sources said that break clause didn't exist. And to be fair, if you were a manager, would you sign a contract that only guaranteed you 6 months when you could probably get 18? So I don't know if that exists. I guess we'll find out in the summer. I'm saying no. I think it probably doesn't. And then finally on Urich, I mean, for all the things we've said about the player selections and the bizarre man-to-man tactics, ultimately we knew the transfer window at the time was the club phoning it in for the season, but that is still the case. Just because he's making bad decisions, it still is the case that they didn't back him anywhere near what he expected to be backed by the sounds of it. He hasn't got the players to play the way he wants, so there is that. But yeah, obviously the counter is that he needs to change.
It's a good point, though, isn't it? Like the one player we do bring in is on the bench and can't get a game, and we haven't brought in anybody that's going to make the starting 11 any stronger by the looks of it. Anything else on Brighton before we move on? I was going to do Player of the Week. It was Aaron Ramsdale that won last week, the 4th of the season for him. So unless I get any, if you want to disagree, but I'm just going to say no vote this week. Let's just give it to Aaron Ramsdale and make it 5 for him, because without him, it's 8 or 9-0, isn't it?
Yeah, motion seconded.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, why did he come here? We ask every other week, but I can't believe he decided to come here, to be fair.
No,
Fair play to him.
and he, absolutely fair play to him.
Yeah, I mean, I could only assume that he genuinely thought we had half a chance.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, playing games is better than not playing games, I suppose. If you are of a mindset of a goalkeeper that wants to play. I mean, there are obviously plenty of goalkeepers around who are happy being bench warming, but it's good to see sort of in this modern era a goalkeeper who does want to actually play football every now and then.
There was a link in the Sun today saying that Bournemouth are interested in him for next season. Obviously, if they end up qualifying for Europe, I mean, that could be a very reasonable move for him.
Yeah, because their keeper's on loan at the moment, isn't he?
Exactly.
But
yeah,
and also. I mean, I hope he gets a move. I hope he gets a good move because as almost a reward for having to put up with this for this season. I know it's his choice, but I mean, he's putting in Amo-Ameyaw level performances. We did yesterday, and still losing 4-0, and it's just grim. And I know he's complaining that the defenders sometimes but usually it's for a lack of movement. He's having to bang the ball long because, it's the complete opposite to what we had at the start of the season. No one wants the ball. No one even does the simple thing of just pulling wide. You sort of like look at 3 static people. He has to boot it, and then he moans at people, and I don't blame him for that.
Did you catch him yesterday shouting across at the subs when they were warming up? I don't know if anybody else saw it, but it was almost like he was shouting across to say, like, what's going on? One of you coming on? Is anything going to happen? I just caught it yesterday. I can't remember what the score was, but it was before the 3rd goal had gone in, I think. And it's almost like he was shouting across to Tall Paul or Will Smallbone and saying, like, what's happening? You could tell that he was really pissed off yesterday about the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, whatever we like to say about Arteta and Arsenal, the levels of almost professionalism and the sort of like will to win amongst the players and all that stuff must be so different to what he's having to put up with now. It must be a massive culture shock. And he probably realised it about 3 or 4 weeks into the season. And I'm sure that privately he's been thinking, my God, what have I done here?
He's going to have 3 relegations on his CV, isn't he? And I know that won't impact where he goes next. But
he's going to have 3 relegations and probably three Player of the Years as well for those clubs, because he got Bournemouth and Sheffield United Player of the Year both those seasons as well.
All right. Just want to do a little bit on the FPL. I think game week 26 is just finishing. There's a few points still to be added in, but as it stands at the moment, the top 3 in our Patreon leaderboard, Leo Kibbe's Fin or Lose, great name, by the way, currently first. Stephen Morrow's team are second, and Richard Cookson's Armageddon are third. As far as the chaps you can see on the screen are concerned, Alfie 5th.
Not bad, that, is it? Not bad.
Wow.
Glen 31st and Steve's 35th. So it's not too much in it. What's the secret, Alfie?
I spend a lot of time thinking about it, unfortunately. That's the truth. So there's no secret. I'm just a bit sad.
Is it a double game week this week then with the midweek?
No, they've been and gone, mate, unfortunately.
Is that not a thing anymore?
No, there'll be one in a month or two's time, but not now.
Steve, you think you can put it around?
Well, I've had a good week this week. I'm waiting for about 55 points to be added from today's games.
Okay.
So, yeah, I might not be completely awful by the end of it.
If you're one of our patrons, there's the WhatsApp groups and there's an FPL one in there if you want to just get anything off your chest as well. So do go and check that out. Tuesday night, it's a trip to Chelsea. It's an 8:15 kickoff, Steve. So I'm guessing that's on the telly, is it?
Yeah, TNT have got the whole
great.
round of games. So yeah, everything's televised this week. All 10 games, staggered kickoff. So it's either 7:30 or 8:15. So yeah, those. Getting back to Southampton after the game, yeah, that'll be slightly iffy on the trains. But I mean, for me, it's one of my easiest away games because I mean it's literally 4 stops I think on the district line down to Wimbledon, and then a tram more or less to my front door.
There you go. If you get stuck, you can stay at Steve's. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the game? I mean, they've lost a couple of games, haven't they? So I guess this would be the perfect opportunity for them to get back on track and
obviously
push for 4th that they've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're still a very good squad of players, and obviously there's the Enzo Maresca factor, who has very much had our number in the last 18 to 20 months. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, scores of 4-1, 5-0 and 5-1 don't bode well, especially for a team that's been kind of fairly profligate in front of goal. I mean, like the Villa game last night, they still created quite a lot of chances, but they just missed everything. And it wasn't like Villa defended particularly well. But yeah, they're in this little run of kind of throwing games away, really. So I mean, maybe we get a little bit more of that. That'd be nice. Nice little bonus away point, maybe, or at least keep the score down to something non-embarrassing. That'd be a solid place to start, I suppose, wouldn't it? After yesterday.
It's going to be a quick turnaround, Alfie. Obviously, that probably means a few rotations. So do you think maybe Flynn Downs comes back in to start for this one?
Yeah, I've got no idea. We did ask Ivan, what's your thinking with that? A quick turnaround. And he just said, not sure. We'll think about that tomorrow morning, which is probably fair enough after being smashed by Brighton. I honestly don't know what to expect. I think he'll bring Paul back in. But other than that, I mean, it's limited numbers, isn't it? I mean, what's he going to do with that defence? I don't know. What would you do with that defence? I don't know. You can't bring Nathan Wood back in the way he's managed it. Although I suppose if you're going to man, getting rid of it, maybe you could bring him back in. But I mean, Joe Rebo could play at the back again.
Jack Stevens, maybe?
No, thanks.
Jack Stevens could come back in. Yeah, James Bree will obviously play. He'll play 90 minutes again because he'll be captain.
Crap.
He'll be captain. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know what he'll do with the team. I mean, Steve makes the point about Chelsea's run of form. They've been beaten 4 of the last 5 games. But if you look at the 4 teams who've beaten them, they're all considerably better teams than Southampton. So I'm not expecting that to be the case. But yeah, this is going to be a hard team to predict. I've got no idea.
Did you see Reece James organise a social gathering for them all just to try and get all the team spirit and everybody back on side this week after their bad run of form? He could have just waited till Tuesday night, Glen.
I was going to say, was it tickets for today's game?
Just save yourself some money on a curry and wait till Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Chelsea have got a squad that's got about 50 Premier League level players. And most of whom didn't get given a squad number at the start of the season.
And every single one of them would improve our starting 11.
Yeah, and we've got a squad of players where about 2 are Premier League level. I was thinking about this 2 years ago. I said that I was looking at our squad and saying how many players have we got who are capable of 3 decent games in a row in the Premier League. And it's less now than it was 2 years ago. It's probably only Ramsdale and Fernandes at the moment. Maybe Bednarek at an absolute push. So as you say, Chelsea have been beaten by Villa and Brighton, who are both light years better than us. So I'm not expecting anything out of that game whatsoever. Cole Palmer has obviously gone off the boil a little bit, so.
Triple captain him.
Triple captain him for your fantasy Premier League.
If you ask for the secrets, mine, I will be captaining Cole Palmer. That's
yeah.
That's a given.
So Yeah, I mean,
they've got some injuries, haven't they? I'm just, trying to.
Yeah, but it's
On
irrelevant.
my list
them.
of positives is they've got a few injuries, and even Ruben Sellers managed to win there. But that's the only thing that I can kind of come up with.
Yeah, the injuries are irrelevant to them. They got so many players. Yes, they're having to play Pedro Neto as a striker at the moment. But,
£50 million player.
Yeah, exactly. So Crimea River. That to me makes no difference. I mean, as Steve said, Maresca always smashes us, but we'll have the last laugh because he'll get sacked at the end of the season, no doubt, unless Chelsea finish in the top four. So,
I mean, I guess the one difference is he's not going to be playing. He's not going to be up against Russell Martin Ball. So maybe
he's not faced heavy metal football yet, is he?
No.
I mean, Steve, I don't know if you
had to go long.
Yeah, I don't know if you realised. Last time we spoke about Chelsea, we got tens of thousands of interactions on a TikTok video because they're all slamming you for having a go at Nicholas Jackson, Steve. Unfortunately, he's injured now, isn't he? But you've been proven right. He was indeed hot and cold, like you said he was, and they were all wrong in the comments. So if this gets TikToked, then hello Chelsea fans.
Is Steve a TikTok star? Is he? I didn't know.
Well, not so much of a star. I think he was a bit of a villain at the time. But I mean, look, we haven't mentioned the fact you obviously mentioned Flynn Downs coming in because
he has to play.
Yeah, because Leslie can't play. So they've lost a one midfielder who can actually sort of play that position in the last 6 weeks. So Flynn will have to come back in.
Coming in away from home as well makes it a bit easier, I guess, with the situation.
Is there anybody in the B team who could play who's got any sort of strength and athleticism about them? You've obviously watched most of their games this year.
Players in the B team who've got strength and athleticism about them, but they're not at the standard. They're not ready to do this. They're not ready to play. I mean, the guys who play in at the moment, Moses Sesse, they like him in the six. He plays as a bit of a left wing back at the same time in other games. Obviously, we know about sort of Romeo, and he's a slightly smaller lad. Joe O'Brien Whitmarsh has gone out on loan. Cam Bragg is their number 6.
Is injured.
Yeah, is he? Fair enough. Yeah, Cam Bragg is the number 6 for the 21s, and I mean Cam Bragg is a good technical player, but he's not at the physical standard to play away from home at Chelsea. So I wouldn't expect anybody to come in from the 21s.
We'll do some predictions in just a moment. Anything else on Chelsea? Anything else we're expecting to see? Anything else we'd like to see on Tuesday night?
I think we've sort of summed up what we'd like to see in the sense that, whether it's a 3-5-2 or a 4-3, whatever it is, just simplify it and defend areas of the pitch. Take responsibility for areas rather than a single man, and then, try and play 2 midfielders who can actually run and tackle would be a good start. Other than that, there's not much to choose from.
Yeah, it'll be a Rebo and Smallbone in the centre of midfield.
I mean, it can't be.
No, I know it can't be.
I like both, but it cannot be that.
No, it can't be. I mean, to me, you've got to put Flynn Downs in there and tell him your job is to protect the 2 centre halves or 3 centre halves, and that is it. You don't go forward. You're not a hybrid number 8 trying to lead the press from the front or any of that rubbish. Your job is to protect that 3.
Poundland, Declan Rice,
absolutely. Just don't move. Keep it simple. But whether we're
do a back 3 of James Bree, Bella Kotchap, and Jack Stevens behind him.
Oh Lord,
good God!
I'd pick myself ahead of James Bree.
I mean, he's a shoe-in. He will start.
Of course.
He's a sure something.
Tall Paul will start up front, obviously.
Tall Paul, Camaldine, and Matty Fernandez up front.
Spider Dibley needs a rest.
Yeah, probably.
He's only played one game.
Well, he just looked, I don't know. I can imagine him getting a rest, I don't know, on Tuesday. It's
He looks knackered. He looks absolutely knackered.
Or disinterested. I can't work out which.
I wouldn't accuse him of being disinterested, to be honest. I think he's 100% interested, but he's knackered. Yeah, he's knackered.
Let's do some predictions then. Entries are open for the Chelsea predictions for patrons that are playing along. You can find that link on Patreon. If you're watching live, then you can obviously put your predictions into the comments on there. Just one person. Gary Fox got 3 points in the predictions league this week, which seems remarkable. I think we all went for like 3-0 or 3-1. So, Steve, you're going to be at this game. Do you want to go first?
4-0.
Getting in there early. Nothing in return for us.
I mean, it's just one of those games where obviously we've got injuries at a bad time in the one area where we can least afford injuries. Like we don't have good defense. We don't have good defenders anyway. And so having the ones that we kind of deem the most competent all being unavailable just is a recipe for disaster, especially against a side like Chelsea who for all that they can throw in an absolute turd of a performance at any given moment, they also have some absolutely ridiculous players who, when you give them time to perform and you don't put them under any sort of pressure, as we didn't do to Brighton yesterday, can tear anybody apart and can turn on the style. And I just think that, I mean, unless suddenly we redevelop kind of a backbone and a bit of competitive edge about us in the space of 3 days, I just don't see anything other than a bit of a hiding, unfortunately.
Okay, I'm putting you down for Alfie.
I will go for a 4-1 then. We'll give us a goal. I don't know who's scoring it, but I mean, Steve's absolutely right. People like Cole Palmer might be out of form and out of sorts, but they'll take one look at the team and they'll be up for it.
Yeah. Glenn, no one's gone for 3-1 yet. Do you want that?
No, it's not enough. Well, I'm hoping, maybe Simon Rusk will send the team out 4-4-1-1, and we'll just try and keep it solid. And Ryan Manning on the left wing and all that stuff, like we did at Arsenal when we were half decent all those years ago. So no, I'm not expecting. I'm expecting slightly better, but more of the same. I'll go 3-0 Chelsea.
3-0. Right. Okay. Don't forget, if you're watching live, stick your predictions in. Thank you for that. Just to let you know, we are going to do, because we're playing on Tuesday, so we are going to do a podcast on Wednesday night at 7:00. We're not going to stew on the Chelsea game for too long, so join us on, I think we agreed Wednesday night at 7 if you can. Don't forget, you can follow Total Saints Podcast. You'll find us on all the social media platforms. Go on, Alfie.
Well, are we not going to talk about the rare sighting at Staplewood on Friday?
What was the rare sighting at Staplewood on Friday?
You don't know about the rare sighting?
Ross Stewart.
No way.
Ross Stewart and Juan Larios played 45 minutes of a football match at Staplewood on Friday. And I was there.
Oh, my God. How did they look?
Juan looked very sharp. He looked pretty good.
Very small.
He looked very small. He looked very small, very sharp. Ross looked like a player who hadn't played in 2 years. He had one good moment again with the ball. But to be fair, he is a player who hasn't played in 2 years. So that's fine. But he had one good moment where he sort of back to goal, took a few players on and turned the play around and got everyone thinking about attacking again. But at the end of the day, look, they need minutes. They haven't played in a long time. On a human being level, you have to feel for them. And it's a good moment for them to get back. But we've been here before with them, haven't we? We've been here before. They've come back into games and, it's not gone well. But by the looks of it, they both got through the 45 minutes okay. I haven't heard anything else. So that's another step for them, whether they end up being useful players for Southampton or not, just for their personal careers that they need to keep going, don't they? So they're pleasing to see that on Friday.
Kind of forgot all about them. So thank you for the update. It's one for next season, maybe. Can
we talk about Sport Republic as a general
concept,
as an entity?
Yeah, because we've spent today really slagging off the manager, slagging off the players, which is all valid. The umbrella over the top of this, of course, is Sport Republic. When you look at the club as a whole, it comes down to them. We've got a manager who's useless. We got a vast majority of the players are useless at the level that we're at. Sport Republic make decision after decision that doesn't work, and we end up where we are. So, I mean, off the top of my head, we've had leaving Ralph Hasenhüttl in place too long, appointing Nathan Jones, that transfer window where we spent a load of money in January that achieved nothing. Ruben Sellés, we got Jason Wilcox and Russell Martin right in the Championship. Fair play to him. Didn't replace Jason Wilcox. The summer window that we had this summer, where we were kind of hiding behind the PSR restrictions, but not enough was done. The wrong players were signed. Signed a load of Championship squad fillers, basically. Leaving Russell Martin in too long, and now appointing this guy. It's just what I mean, I don't think they're going anywhere. They're not suddenly going to turn around and say, "Okay, we're terrible at this. We need to sell up." But
who's buying as well?
Yeah, it bothers me slightly that it's like we said, when Russell Martin was there, he attracted all the criticism, and even Urich and the players are attracting it all now. But what's happening with Sport Republic? What do people think about that? I mean, they're not going anywhere. as I just said. But do we just have? I don't really know the answer to this, as you can tell. I'm just sort of waffling through it. But do we have to wait for the summer and just hope that yet another reset and this new director of football, and they kind of start getting things right? I mean, obviously, it's a lot easier to rebuild in the Championship than it is in the Premier League. But for me, you've got to have like a 2-year plan, which is obviously getting promoted again and being able to stay there, or at least have a run at staying there and not being bloody embarrassing, which is what we've been this year.
That 2-year plan at the moment is centered around sort of squad cost ratio rules, as I sort of briefly spoke about last week. But every club, it's not been agreed yet because the top clubs are fighting it, obviously, as they always do everything. But we are expecting squad cost ratio rules, so you can spend 85% exactly of your revenue on player transfers, player wages, and agent fees to come in from 2026. So they have a plan. Whether it's a good plan or not, we'll find out. But they are working towards that. So they are going to approach this summer's window, and spend cautiously in a rebuild so that they can keep X amount of money back for a proper window, which we didn't really get this time, the following summer. But obviously we have to wait and see that, because it's not a given that you can rebuild in the Championship. Russell Martin did a really good job last season of pulling together a group of players which hated each other, staff which didn't want to be there, and still getting promoted, albeit by the playoffs. There's no guarantee you go straight back up, and even if you do, there's no guarantee that just because you've got 100 million or whatever it is to spend, that keeps you in the Premier League either. So I think it's a good thing that the owners aren't going anywhere, in the sense that they're going to keep supplying money and they don't take money out of the club as it stands. They're only putting money in. Financially, it's slightly better, but they just seem to get every footballing decision almost wrong. And this Johannesburg, it's a big year for Sport Republic, because if they get it wrong again, there's going to be very little goodwill left in the fan base. I mean, obviously, you're absolutely right, Glenn. People are pointing fingers at Sport Republic now, and fair enough, because they've got everything wrong. If they get it wrong again, it's going to be a problem.
Is the Johannesburg's appointment not an admission that they did get it wrong, with Henrik Kraft stepping back? And then we're kind of saying like this is the final roll of the dice, because with him, if he comes in, he does a really good job. We know that he's probably going to get poached in about 18 months anyway. So we're kind of damned if we do.
But you at least then know that. I mean, I think they've now finally got it into their heads that role is important. They kind of didn't bother replacing Wilcox at the back end of the Championship season, because it's like, well, that's fine. I don't think he did he really do anything. I mean, obviously the answer is yes, but they kind of felt like there was that sort of sense at board level that actually Wilcox going to Man United, it got us a few million quid. Nice little bonus, and actually we can kind of cover most of the roles and responsibilities from in-house. And obviously the way that the summer went in terms of recruitment, Dragan Solak has quite rightly come in and said, well, this is my money and you've absolutely wasted it, you bunch of useless idiots. So no, we are going to appoint somebody to that role who is going to be entirely responsible for it. It's going to be someone who's got credibility and has got stature in that role, and they're going to be given kind of full backing just to kind of get on with it and get that job done. And yeah, I mean, sure, if it then fails under him, then the kind of questions start pointing in a slightly different direction. But yeah, I mean, you've got to have somebody in that role doing it in order to kind of assess where they're trying to take it. Because I mean, you look at what they've done over in Turkey. I mean, it does seem as if Göztepe are going quite well, but ultimately, no Saints fan really gives a toss about that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like my bothered bag is very empty in terms of number of shits given about Göztepe, unfortunately. As much as I would like to support a team that looks like Melchester Rovers. There's one for the dads.
There's one for the kids, yeah.
But yeah, it's ultimately the multi-club ownership thing only works if you've got people appointed in the right roles across the entire group, and quite clearly we haven't had that. Maybe appointing Spores solves that problem. Ultimately, jury's out, and we will wait and see with bated breath, I suppose.
I think recruitment has been the biggest problem, clearly, in the last 2 or 3 years, and a lot of all the other problems, come from that. But that's probably the hardest thing to get right, surely.
But then we have someone that's been looking after recruitment, and maybe his name doesn't get mentioned enough because it's Mowbray, isn't it, who has been doing that role? And I think maybe Glen mentioned it a couple of weeks
Glen
ago.
spoke about this a couple of weeks ago and just sort of said, well, we don't actually know what he does.
He should be the first person out the door.
Yeah, well, we don't even know if he's actually in charge of. I mean, he's certainly not picking the players. I mean, I'd be very surprised if Darren Mowbray is choosing which players are signed.
It sounds like he's more just a chief scout, isn't he?
Exactly. Organisation of the scouts. Exactly what I was going to say. It seems like he's more of just organisation of where people go and that kind of thing. And I don't think he's having the say on it. But yeah, I mean, the players they found haven't been great. And the case of Ross Stewart doesn't help. Signing a player for 10 million quid, which was a gamble, and the gamble was not paid off. Amo-Ameyaw and Camaldine, all right, it looks like they might be sort of semi-decent players in certain ways, but they're not worth the money they spent on them. And that window hamstrung us for ages. And that was obviously Rasmus Ankerson. Like Glen said, the next summer was okay. They pulled together a championship squad on a really, really small budget, and then they've just got this summer. They've got it wrong again, haven't they? They've spent big Premier League money on one position. He's the only player who's actually really good. That's obviously Aaron Ramsdale. Matty Fernandez was a good find. But other than that, it's slim pickings, isn't it? Really, in terms of good recruitment.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I mean, Rasmus Ankerson came out with that famous quote that the championship in England was the 6th best league in Europe or something. I mean, it's obviously, Göztepe have just been promoted, haven't they? It's their first season in the top league, so obviously the gap between the Turkish Championship, whatever it's called, and the Turkish Super League is a lot smaller than the absolute chasm that exists between the championship here. So maybe Rasmus got one thing right. He was just to the wrong country.
One more set of rules that might come in next year is the top to bottom anchoring. So that's what I think our clubs are arguing about now. But they're trying to bring in a rule which means that no club can spend more than 5 times the revenue of the bottom club. So in the case of Southampton, that would be 5 times Southampton's budget revenue, which is exactly the revenue Man City makes. So they're sort of complaining about those top to bottom anchoring things. But that still seems, if a club can spend 5 times the bottom club revenue, that gap is still only going to get wider and wider. So I don't see how
pointless. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, but if that wasn't in place, teams like Man City, in the future might start spending 600 million a year, and Saints are never going to get anywhere near that. So,
any more this week? As I say, we will reconvene on Wednesday night at 7 to.
Just very finally, I suppose Simon Rusk. The club are expecting Simon Rusk to become a first-team coach officially. He's obviously done 21's manager. That contract is not signed. That deal is not done. So hopefully he hasn't watched what's happened and decided to change his mind. But they're expecting him to...
Don't anything to do with that.
Yeah, he might well think he might get another couple of games at the end of the season. Get to go to Goodison Park, whatever, as the manager. But they're going to have Callum McFarlane, who's the under-18s head coach, replace him as under 21's head coach. So just a minor housekeeping change there. One of the coaches moving.
How's that work? Is McFarlane going to stick around for the Youth Cup?
He is sticking around for the. So he's going to take the final few Youth Cup games.
that obviously might be over on Tuesday night. That's absolutely ridiculous to schedule him, by the way. Which I assume is Watford's doing. They've probably done that deliberately so that we don't get any support up there.
Yeah, it's a shame. Like I say, we've got the Youth Cup quarter-final on Tuesday, the same day we play Chelsea. Callum McFarlane's going to do the Youth Cup games, but they're going to have Drew Sermon and Ricky King, who's the Academy head of coaching, as the interim bosses for the 18s for the league for the rest of the season. So Callum McFarlane will be the 21's boss only, unless the Youth Cup.
A convenient space left open for a certain Mr. Lallana in the summer then.
Yeah, obviously Adam's got a great relationship with the academy guys as well because his son's in the academy. And if he wants to step into it, I don't think anyone would say no, would they?
We'd miss his contribution on the pitch. Who could have seen that coming? All of us.
What a great way to finish. Right, we will see you on Wednesday night 7, as I mentioned right at the start. We're on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with your monthly contributions. And each of the tiers comes with a little shout out at the end for those in our Francis Benali and our Mick Shannon tiers. So the Royal Court of Honour, thanks to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, and James Kibbe. You'll find them in the Francis Benali tier. Also, thanks to Colt Baker, Dave Ernsberger, Nick Hingston, Phil Cook, Nick Reed, Paul Stewart, Phil Horstrup, Matt Hall, Mark Littlewood, Mike Etheridge, James Bobin, John Bevan, and Liam Dempsey, who are in our Mick Shannon tier. Thanks as always to Paul Castle Associates and our friends at Steamtown Brewery for sponsoring TSP this season. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you again on Wednesday night at 7.